My name's Shiraz Akmal. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Spaces. And we are focused on virtual and mixed reality. In fact, we're a relatively new company, I think, that has an interesting story. And that story originates in the sense that we were just formed a few months back. Prior to that, we were just given the blessing from our former management team at DreamWorks Animation to spin out our team and set up an independent company to pursue and focus on our passion of VR and mixed reality. Now, leading up to Spaces, the last 3 years has been spent really building hundreds of projects and prototypes related to VR and mixed reality at DreamWorks Animation. We were part of a team called the Dream Lab. And it was probably one of the most fun jobs I've ever had in my life, and certainly for all of our kids. We were building things like reimagining visiting Santa Claus in the mall, to hanging out with our characters, like the penguins of Madagascar, on virtual sets. And everything in between, from theme park rides to touring attractions, to consumer and corporate sponsorship partnerships with corporations like Denny's and McDonald's and you name it. And so it was really a wonderful time for us. Over those 3 years and the dozens and dozens of different hardware that we got to touch, we were busy working and building and trying to figure out how do we actually leverage VR in a way to tell our stories, to leverage the technology in a way that can bring new experiences to our fans and audiences around the world. And I will say today, standing here, I'm most excited about the fact that if I look back 2015 and 2014, I see media, we're at a point where media is very flat. And looking ahead, especially for the younger generation, media is becoming very three-dimensional and spatialized. But today, there's just 10 times more the number of hardware and choices and decisions that need to be looked at in order to actually build for VR and mixed reality than it was maybe 3 years ago. We still have some 3D printed headsets from Oculus that they hand delivered to us in a brown paper bag. So we've had a lot of fun going through a lot of the trials and tribulations of figuring out this medium. So today I was really excited about speaking from the perspective of brands. Having worked for a very large brand and with a lot of partnerships, one of the important things that we realized early on when we found ourselves talking about VR was the idea that it's three-dimensional. And this is a really important thing, especially for those of you who haven't had a chance to try it or build a project. But if you think about VR, we kind of think of it as a space. Our definition is it's a unit of virtual or mixed reality. And that's important. Much like VR, or space maybe to VR, you may look at a scene in a movie similar to maybe parallel that of a film, or a page in a book, or a web page itself may be similar to that of a website. So a space is similar. A space kind of, the idea of a space is the building block for VR. In Close Encounters, a Steven Spielberg film, the three main characters, Roy, Jillian, and Larry, were climbing this devil's tower, this mountain, and they all had visions of this tower, and they all expressed it through art. When they realized it was a real tower, they decided to go there, and they journeyed there. And as they were climbing the tower, Roy, I believe, looked to the group and he said, look, we can't continue upwards because we're going to run into a 300-foot drop. Instead, let's take the canyon around the mountain. And the other members of his group realized that in their paintings and their drawings, they failed to think about it in more than one dimension. In fact, Jillian said, look, I only painted the front of the mountain. And Roy famously said, well, maybe you should try sculpting. So one of the important things with this, and what we think about, what we had thought about a lot at DreamWorks, and what we think about at Spaces, is the idea that you need to look around the mountain, because that's the first step into designing for VR. In fact, the second step is probably, I recommend a trip to a theme park. Take, for example, Disneyland. It's designed in a way where As you know, there's a main street lined with buildings, and those buildings take you right to the castle. Now, you can go anywhere, but most people generally head to the castle. So the space at Disneyland is designed in a way to encourage certain types of behavior and interactions with the characters and the surroundings. So we always say design spaces rather than pages. So virtual reality is kind of a fun thing, right? The simple definition we like to say is it can take you anywhere. And part of that is the challenge of figuring out where do you start. With the myriad of choices and decisions, we think it's important, at least for 2016 and on, to think about a publishing strategy, if you will. And part of that strategy is deciding what you're going to make. And I think I'll walk you through a few examples here. So this is, for DreamWorks, we faced that decision of what do we actually build for VR, especially in the early days. How do we build a turnkey system, much like we would for a digital campaign on the web or mobile? What's that equivalent in VR? So we created DreamWorks VR, which allows us to create spaces around each of our movies and characters so that we can push out new content, interactive characters, movie trailers, whatever you like, across multiple platforms. There's a great video here I put in here of a review by a reviewer, and I thought he was kind of funny, so I'll just play a little bit of it so you can get a sense.
So without further ado, let's dive into the DreamWorks experience. All right, well, here we are, folks. Welcome to the DreamWorks animation app for the Gear VR. Wow, I gotta admit, the graphics on here are actually really good. The water's pretty realistic. If it wasn't for me being able to see my body, I'm here in the clouds. And look, there's a ship here. All right, so let's go ahead and try out the Home app. We're on the ship.
Just trying to fit in.
I am superstar.
This is so cool. It's like I'm actually standing there looking at the screen. So let's check out this Penguins of Madagascar one.
The world needs saving.
What's cool, it's if you look at each penguin, they'll look right back at you.
Skipper.
What up?
Kowalski.
What up? This is so fun.
And Private.
Wow.
For our entire lives.
I gotta admit, this is... I mean, for those of you who aren't near a desert or a beach, can watch it like this. This is awesome.
He was great. In fact, in our studies we ran, we probably had hundreds of thousands of people interact with that app. And whenever we did studies internally, and what we've shared publicly in the past has been that 7 out of 10 people with the penguins wave back. And that was one of the early realizations that we had when we started developing for VR. So location-based VR is actually pretty critical, I think, for any frontline marketing efforts you may have. And the reason is, I know we're in Seattle and Los Angeles and New York and San Francisco are the same, VR is hot, but 99.99% of the people on this planet have never used VR. They may not even have heard of it. Maybe they've started to hear about it, let alone try it, whether it's Cardboard or the Vive. And I think that's really important from a marketing and business perspective to remind yourself that that's the case. Even through 2016, that's where these pop-up or location-based VR attractions are critical to the success of any marketing campaign. So for DreamWorks, we had built Dragonflight VR to promote the movie and then the subsequent Netflix TV series. It's a touring attraction where the experience starts before you put on the headset. We built this amazing Viking ship that toured around, and it was great for photos. I'll give you there's a little video here. You can see what the experience is like. Now that it's a little older, one of the decisions we had made early on was never to show video. Because as you know, video for VR just never communicates the exact feeling of what the experience was like. But now I think more and more people have seen it, and so they kind of expect to see it. But that's something to think about, whether you show video versus not.
Come on, bud.
There you go. The other key thing is my co-founder, Brad Herman, and I, we've been working side by side for many, many years in VR, and then we left to start Spaces together. This is the next video. I think you can see his sleeve in the shot. For VR, just like location-based, it's really important to use your existing social media influencers, press, bloggers, bring them through the experiences, have them write about it. This is an example of
I'm
Awesomeness
Josh
TV.
Carlin, and today on the DreamWorks Download, we're going into the danger zone.
All my life I've dreamed of riding dragons just like Jacob and Astrid in Dragon's Race to the Edge. So I came here to DreamWorks Animation where they've turned riding dragons from a fantasy into reality. Let's get ready to soar!
I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
All right, hey, it's me. I'm Hiccup. It's Toothless. Oh, that's cool. Look, I'm soaring. I am soaring through the air. This is awesome. The wind's blowing in my face. I feel at peace. All right, this is awesome. Okay, this is cool. It's really fast. Like, how do I steer this thing? Toothless, hurry up! No, don't do that! Ah, what's happening? Mayday, mayday! Coming in hot,
Welcome back.
What? Hi.
How was your flight?
No trouble at all for a seasoned pilot like myself.
So social media influencers can make a great impact in terms of getting your VR campaign out and about, especially on YouTube and Facebook. The other thing that's important, I think, in this day and age, and I think there are a few people here from Amazon and from Oculus and Samsung, for content creators and brands, one of the best partners you have today, and at least through the next few years, really are the hardware manufacturers who have every interest in promoting your content in order to help sell the hardware itself. And so I was excited to put together a deal where we were part of the Gear VR launch when that had happened in November last year, and where we got to feature some of the content we had in our Gear VR app in the Gear VR commercials. And this is a clip. I won't go through the whole video, but there's a little Kung Fu Panda clip, that little in there. That went out to like the NFL games and on the TV nationally, and it was really great. And I think that there's really not too many competitors. I look at, and we've always believed this, and we still believe this at Spaces, is today, we look at all of our partners in the VR and mixed reality spaces as partners rather than competitors, because there's so much more that has to be done to create kind of an audience and a market for this sort of stuff. So I really, recommend reaching out and embracing your peers in that, in getting your content out there. Google and Facebook have done something tremendous. They've actually normalized 360 video. And we were surprised to see them go in so early in terms of supporting 360 video, and then most recently streaming 360 video itself. And so you can create content like this. So that was content that's unwrapped. But what we found, interestingly enough, is with children in particular, when they're on YouTube and they see a spinnable video, I think in the earlier speaker he showed the Clash of Clans video, or at least a little call out to that. We started noticing that kids, once they spin a video, they kind of expect all the videos to spin, and they started thinking that the videos were broken. So that's really interesting in terms of that behavior. So the last thing I'm going to show you is something that we're super excited about at Spaces, and the last few months we've been really concentrating heavily, which is mixed reality. And I like to say that mixed reality has the power to bring anything into a space. And so my 7-year-old was super excited to see one of the first customers outside of DreamWorks that we partner with show up, because it happens to be one of his favorite games, My Singing Monsters. So I don't know if any of you have children or if you're playing this on the side, but it's a really awesome game. Let me show you what the game looks like on mobile, and then I'll show you what we're doing with it.
Hey, buddy, hey, let's go!
So this is a brand that I was introduced to by my son, and apparently millions of other kids play this game all the time, and I think some adults as well. And so they came to us, Big Blue Bubble, and said, you know, we're looking to figure out how to promote our brand to larger audiences. We make our money in mobile, but it's a property that's building a following. And so beyond working on a VR type promotional experience, they were one of the early customers to get onto the HoloLens side of things with us. So we were super excited to bring one of my son's favorite characters, Mammoth, to life in the HoloLens. So here's a little clip we filmed over the weekend in anticipation of this event.
Bum, 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 bum. Do, 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 do.
Hey, buddy, hey, let's go!
He's looking for you. Hey.
Hey, buddy, hey, let's go!
He's on the fountain. He's flipped upside down.
This might be on top of a trash can.
It's a recycling bin.
Well, he isn't. Hey, buddy, hey, let's go!
Just don't hit him. Oh, Mammoth.
Thanks for giving me back the ball. Hey, buddy, hey, let's go!
I'm Dean O'Ryan, Executive Creative Director at Spaces. Just imagine the possibilities and the different ways that brands can communicate their message using this wonderful new technology. We create spaces where these experiences live.
There you go. So that's Zia and his favorite character. The last comment I guess I'll make is that we think that from a marketing perspective, there's so many things that can be done with or without the hardware, using existing social media channels, and then certainly building towards the future that's coming, I think, relatively fast in the next few years. And I think what's really exciting is pushing yourselves from a creative kind of perspective to see what's possible. We're really excited to be at the forefront, along with many of you, in figuring that out. Thank you very much.
That was awesome. Thank you.